Carson, Leno, Fallon. Now, it's Wine Talks with Paul K.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today about to have a conversation with Valentine Hostens Picant of the Hostens Picant, Chateau Hostens Picant. Easy for me to say. Winery introductions in just a moment. Hey, have a listen to Isis Daniel. Of course, she'll make a comment about her first name, rather controversial, but she is the millennial somm. She's in Paris right now, earning her diploma WSET degree. Fascinating conversation about people of color and women in wine coming from a younger perspective, hence the millennial somm. Have a listen. Hey, don't forget to download as many episodes as you can and subscribe to your local or favorite platform. If you have something good to say, please say it. If you don't, keep it to yourself. But not why we're here today. Here to have a conversation with Valentine. Actually, restart this conversation since I screwed up the recorder. But welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is fascinating already about what we were talking about, and we were sort of touching on this idea of Chateau Hostens Picant being in. And I had it wrong when I first looked at the map, but we're well into the right bank.
Yes, we are at the border actually of the Gironde and Dordogne area.
Oh, so for the listeners, left bank would be left of the Dordogne.
Garonne.
The Gironde, and entre deux mers, which is between the seas, would be between the two rivers.
Exactly.
And then on the right side, we're going to be the right bank.
Exactly.
Which is, interesting appellation differences, just sort of in the broad strokes of things. And I don't necessarily subscribe to this a way to choose a wine because of this, but traditionally things on the right bank are Merlot based.
Merlot and more Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc.
Yeah.
I noticed that in the color of the last bottle we just tasted. It was gorgeous depth to that color, and that comes from the Cabernet Franc, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually today in our vineyard we have almost half of Cabernet Franc, so it's quite important, yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, we have made a major changes since 20 years. So now we have more and more Cabernet Franc because it's very well adapted to our terroir.
So we're going to talk about that terroir because we're getting into an interesting part of this conversation, and we were discussing a little bit about the appellation Sainte-Foy, which, in my opinion, at some point, the granularity or the specificity of, easy for me to say in English, specificity of an appellation, I think under traditional viewpoints would say, yes, the more pedigreed, the more descriptive a wine could be if we could be that way, but the appellation actually became Côte de Bordeaux or part of the Côte de Bordeaux at some point. And you were talking about the consumers are being confused at some point with some of these.
Yeah, I think Côte de Bordeaux is quite large. It regroups today 5 different appellations: Blaye, Castillon, Franc, Cadillac, and Sainte-Foy, the last one. So I think people are quite confused when it comes to Côte de Bordeaux, but I think it's still an interesting group, and but I think each of them they are not really playing together today because Castillon is something, and now is trying to make upgrade of Castillon. So I think every appellation plays a little bit individually.
They're playing games, huh?
So,
well,
no, but I think it's not really a common group today.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a bit complicated for the consumer. But I think Sainte-Foy is interesting because
can you say Sainte-Foy if you want to, or you have to say Côte de Bordeaux?
No, you say Sainte-Foy Côte de Bordeaux. Each time you say the appellation before.
So you travel all over.
Yes.
I'm assuming the world actually, but you're certainly in America. You're here for a trip to.
Yes.
Well, we talked about this Kansas, of course. We'll talk about that in North Carolina. But do you see then that consumers look at a bottle and they say, what's Sainte-Foy? Or, oh, I get it. It's Côte de Bordeaux, and I understand that now. Is that coming around yet, or they're still sort of trying to learn this?
I think it really depends on the market.
Yeah.
For example, I travel quite a lot in Japan. And there they like specific things, So
Yes.
Sainte-Foy is a plus, clearly, because they like things that are not so common. But in other markets, I don't necessarily say, put like light on Sainte-Foy and it's just part of Bordeaux. So it depends. So
That's interesting because the Asian markets have, they have a growth curve, and Japan seems to be ahead of the growth curve. They're the earlier adopters of fine wine and scotches and, things that are nice,
Yes.
luxurious things in life, as the Chinese and the Taiwanese and those groups are a little behind that. And so I think that's interesting that the Japanese now are looking at more specificity. Hey, I got it right. More specificity to the appellation, because they always tend, in the beginning they wanted Lafite and Rush in the classified gross, and then now they're learning that there's some good values, and your wines were excellent value, and the price for the quality that you're making. They're finding those things. Are we there yet in America? Do we have that idea that we don't have to drink classified growth every time?
I think more and more people realize that you can find some super quality everywhere in Bordeaux. You know, I think it's a new generation, and I'm totally part of this new generation. And since 10 years, 15 years, I think major changes has been done in the area, and I think people now start to know it. So more and more, I think people won't pay too much attention to appellation and to the quality of the wine, because I think it should be like this, because it's not normal that you pay for an appellation if the quality inside is not good,
Well, you can only fool them once, right? Like, you can have a fancy label and you can put all kinds of cool things, and of course, one of the trending things, at least, it's actually sort of backing off. We were talking about the elegance of your label, and it hasn't changed since you started, right? Since
Yes,
your
right.
parents bought it.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing, because so much of wine marketing has got into what is in the label, and I'll explain. One of the the largest consumer, internet brands, called Wink, went bankrupt, and they were notorious for buying really inexpensive, like 60 cent a liter juice, putting it in a bottle with a fancy label or a funny name, and attracting the millennials. So here I'm glad to see we're sort of stepping it back a little bit and paying attention to what's in the bottle,
Yes.
and less about the name and this.
I think if you want to create a brand, and if you want, you need to do serious things and to do quality all the time, and because once people try your wine, they will come back to it.
That's
or
right.
not, but if you do quality, it's the best way to do a long-term work and to create a proper brand it's what we do since 30 years, so it takes time, but I'm very confident in the fact that we are building something,
The brand building is hard.
Yes, it takes time. Yeah.
You're here in America, traveling, hotel rooms, flights, and
Everybody does that,
They have to. I think you have to. And how's your internet presence? Do you guys marketing on the internet? Or you have a website?
We are very careful with internet, because we have one good client in France who we work with since 10 years, and they have an internet presence. Not only because it's I think it's like a monthly.
Yes.
You receive 2 bottles every month. Sorry. So it's quite and because we are very faithful to our clients, we are very careful of the price, because the price point is very important.
Yes.
So
necessary.
So you have to pay attention to little details like this, because it's for your retailers after, it's very important.
This is what I did, for 35 years, was 2 bottles a month of different wines, and we were very conscientious about holding that price value of the wine.
Yeah.
And so here you are with a wonderful wine. It's probably going to retail in the $20-something per bottle. The white around the same, a little less. And up comes this internet site that's selling something that's called Bordeaux, but it's not very good, and they're selling it for $7 a bottle. And the consumer gets confused and says, "Oh, I can get this, same wine for $7." And you're like, "No, it's not the same wine," because there really is not, except under just duress, under situations where the winery needs to move a lot of merchandise quickly. Wine can be a relative price value relationship. In other words, if the prices, that's not always the case, I know that, but if you're selling the wine for $25, you expect that there's $25 worth of wine in there, right?
Yeah, of course.
And if you're buying $7
It's
worth
not
of
always
wine,
the case, yeah.
Yes, it's not always the case.
It's not
And
always
if
the
you're buying
case.
$7 worth of wine, it's probably a good chance it's only $7 worth of wine, right?
I think a wine at $20 or in this area you have more chance that it's a good wine if it doesn't have any big names, on the label, because you know that if you pay it because of the quality of the wine.
Right. And just playing with the wine.
Yeah.
Does it cost more money since you've just got certified as organic? Does it cost more to grow grapes organically than conventionally?
It costs more because you lose more.
Yes.
So at the end, of course, it costs more because you produce it a little bit less.
Your yields are less.
Yeah. So, but it's not the fact that it's more expensive growing, but you take the risk of losing more harvest. That was the case this year because of the mildew, but we are not the. It's not. It was not only a question of organic or not organic this year. It's because it was big in Bordeaux.
The harvest was good.
No, I was talking about the mildew.
Oh, the mildew. That's not good.
No, for the Merlot, it's not good.
The Merlot?
Yes, it
affected it more?
More, yeah, much more.
Cabernet Franc is more resistant to mildew?
Yes. So that's why I think more and more people will think about growing new types of grapes in Bordeaux because Merlot is very sensitive.
But they just, aren't they allowing now things like Touriga Nacional and other grape varietals because of climate change to be grown there?
Yes, they are, yes.
Have you experimented with
you're
those?
Right. We have planted some new grapes, but not in red, in white.
Oh, in the white?
Yes.
What are they allowing in white besides Muscadelle?
It won't be under Bordeaux.
Oh.
We have planted some Chardonnay a bit.
Oh my goodness! What?
Yes, because we have
you
very
gone
nice terroir.
mad?
We have very nice terroir for white wine.
Wow!
Also for red, but we have found a little parcel perfect for this kind of wine. And then we have also planted some 2 grapes from southwest France, also white, which are Petit Courbu and Buisselet.
Wow, those are unusual.
It's unusual, but I think because I was telling you before that we have create a new project with trees and vines, and we are trying these kind of grapes because they are supposed to be quite easy to raise, and they keep a good acidity also. So
this is an interesting question, and it's wine is. It's business. We want to make a profit. We love the subject. We love the passion of winemaking. But at the same time, we have to sell what people want to buy. And it's a pet problem of mine, of what we see on the shelves as being not substandard wines for the price, because it's appealing to the marketplace. And here, you're going to grow alternative grapes to what Bordeaux allows. Is that an attempt to find something interesting that's growing there and make a wine that's interesting, or possibly satisfying some market need at a price range for white wine?
Actually, I think when you do wine, you have to think 10 years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to try new things.
Yes. 10 years, wow.
Yeah, because maybe 5-10 years, but you have to see in advance because what you plant today won't be necessarily the good type of grape for tomorrow. So
no, exactly.
So
that's kind of hard to predict, isn't it?
It's quite hard to predict, but I think because maybe we are in a less known appellation, we can afford ourselves to do maybe a little unusual things.
Yeah.
Because I think when you have very famous appellation, it's quite hard to do some changes.
So if you grow Chardonnay in Côte de Bordeaux,
It won't be Côte de Bordeaux. It will
It's
be
going to be Vin de France?
Yes,
Wow.
so far. But maybe in the future, Bordeaux will allow new grapes from Southwest. And, more and more you will need some, in our case, it's not completely the question, because where we are in Bordeaux, we have a lot of clay and limestone that keeps a good acidity in the wine. But in some other place of Bordeaux, you will have to find an alternative to keep some acidity in the wine because of the terroir that are in other place. I think you will have to find some balance in the wine. So you have to think of that, because growing white wine, you need to keep acidity.
Is there? I've never asked this question, and I'm not sure I've read the answer to this, but if you were if the three grapes of white Bordeaux are Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscadel, you're not allowed to put anything else, like not even 1%.
We have Sauvignon Gris also.
Which?
Sauvignon Gris.
Oh, Sauvignon Gris. Okay, yes. So let's just say one of the Chardonnay. You can't put any Chardonnay.
No.
There's not even, like in America, you can put 75% of one grape. Okay. That's interesting.
I heard of Merlot Blanc also recently.
Merlot Blanc?
Yes.
Merlot Blanc.
Yes, I heard of that. I think it should be.
I've heard of Pinot Noir Blanc, but not Merlot Blanc.
I heard of Merlot Blanc a few days ago, so that's why I think of that. But I think, yes, it really depends on the terroir you have. And that's why I think we have we are lucky to have this kind of terroir where we are. So I'm not so concerned about, and I'm not so afraid of growing white wine where we are in the future, because we have really our land.
So when mildew comes and we lose much of our thing, and now, look, for the listeners, I don't know if they know, but the Bordelais were the people that invented copper sulfate to prevent mildew. Is that not allowed in the organic certification in Europe?
Yes, you are allowed. You put some, I don't know how to say in English, cuivre. You are allowed, but it's you do some treatment before the rain, not after. That's the main difference between when you're organic and not organic.
There's a story, and I was telling you about May Alain Lancasson, who was in Bordeaux as a child. And there's a story back then during the war where there was this gentleman who was stealing copper from the Germans and making copper sulfate so they could dust the vineyards and not have mildew. And then all of a sudden the guy disappeared because the Germans found out that he is stealing back the copper to make. I mean, it's crazy stories back then.
That's interesting.
It's interesting because I know the rules and certification for organic are different between America or the U.S. and Europe. So why did you do that? Why did you go the way of organic? It's more expensive. The question's out there whether some of the big houses like the First Growths are going to go that direction. But what was the decision in your family to do that?
I think it was like the logical step after what we did for 20 years. We have worked since 2004 with De Renoncourt consultants, and we have done a big work with us. We have replants a lot of parcel, finding the good grapes with the good terroir, and we have done quite a big work. And I think the organic was just the step after, and it was logical. I think that we didn't ask ourselves too many questions. It was just the way it has to be.
Just has to be that way.
Yeah.
I think, personally, the organic farming is necessary and important for the human race. I think that's very important, whether it's wine or food.
Yes, I can't imagine doing it another way like today, because if I work, I also work for my children, and even if I'm still young, but I have two kids, and they are here every day, and we are going to the winery every week, and they are in my area. So for me, it can't be another way. And
that's the number one. It's so interesting you said that. I've only heard it from European winemakers, Italians and French and whatever. My kids play in this vineyard. My kids are there. They're out there. There was a gentleman I had lunch with in Italy, Valentino Valentini, one of the great Montefalco winemakers, and he goes, "My kids play in this vineyard, and so we don't want those things." But past that, I mean, we are what we eats, right? What the grapes, what the vines are, the nutrients they're getting is being passed to us. The radishes, the carrots, all the cattle is all being passed through to us, whatever they're eating, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just important. But they say that organic farming doesn't produce as much. Have the yields gone down a tonnage per acre or
No,
no?
not
So that's
necessarily.
good.
But yeah, it's more sensible to disease. But I think it's not only organic or not organic. It's a question of the climate change and humidity, and I think it's above the question of only the question of organic farming.
What was it that your dad? I'm going to make an assumption here that your father was not in the wine business prior to doing this.
No.
And what was this calling? What happened?
Actually, my dad was born in Arcachon, so it's not so far from Bordeaux. So he grew up in this area, but he had a first life in the medical industry. And actually, when I was not born, and my sister was was 2. I have also an older brother, and he wanted to find a countryside house at the beginning. It was not a vineyard. So there is a long story behind, but if I had to sum up a little bit, he visited a few houses, and when he saw this one, he fell completely in love.
Wow.
And so he said to the guy, "You are going to follow me," because he had an appointment in Bordeaux, and we are signing today.
Wow.
And so he told my mom when he came back to Paris that night that he bought a vineyard.
Now, I would get in big trouble for that around my house.
He had big trouble.
But now,
They are still here.
Are you?
35
do you
years
have
after.
residence in Paris still, or do you?
We still have yes, we still have apartment in Paris, but I live
Mostly
in
in
Bordeaux.
Bordeaux.
Yeah,
Are you
and
going
they
to
share
rent
their time. Yeah,
Are you going to rent the apartment for the Olympics?
That's a good question.
When we were there last week, I mean, the construction and the work going on, and the taxi drivers are all complaining, that this is going to be a madhouse, and they're going to put swimming in the Seine. How are they going to do that?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty cool. So your father comes home, tells your mom, "Hey, I bought a vineyard." She says, "Vous êtes fou,"
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
And says, well, maybe not so formal, but now does she love it?
Yeah, she has been following him and they have been in this crazy adventure for 36 years.
Yeah.
So I think
That's
they
so
have
great.
passed through tons of stories, and
It takes a lot of guts.
yeah, you have to building a new brand in an unknown area of
Yeah.
Bordeaux is quite of a challenge. Huh?
Do you respect your father for this sort of adventure?
My parents.
Your
Yeah.
parents?
Yes.
And all?
Yes, of course, because I think they do it. They were a bit crazy to do that, but
Yeah,
but
for sure.
the result is that we are still here, and we have built a story, and people like our story, and a lot of sommelier people from the wine industry recognize that the quality of our wines, and they are in many very nice Michelin restaurant in Paris, and that was a job of my mom actually for many years, that she went to see everybody, So yes, she followed, and I think they had a new eye also, because sometimes it's the case with people who are not in the industry before and arrive with a new eye, and so I think they did things a little bit differently that people used to do at that time. So that's why today I work with them for the last 10 years.
Wow. What were you doing before?
I'm a lawyer.
You're a lawyer?
Yes.
Wow.
So actually, I decided to join my family 10 years ago after my law school. And for the first year, I traveled a lot with my father in his markets. So for 5 years, we traveled like two times a year, like 2-3 weeks. So it was quite something.
You're not the first advocate that has switched gears that I've had in this studio
Okay.
that actually, let me see if I put this in the right timeline. You were going to law school while your father had already bought the winery, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, because you were very young when he bought the winery.
Thank
Maybe
you.
you weren't even born yet.
Thank you.
So, and a lot of times the next generation, or even maybe third generation says, I want to do something else with my life. You're a farmer and you make wine and big deal. And they go off and they go to law school, med school, business school, master's, PhD, whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, this is pretty cool stuff. I kind of like the wine business. And they come back to it. Is that the way you felt? Or you just saw this opportunity with your father to join him?
Actually, my parents didn't ask me to join. I was the one knocking at the door and saying, okay, I'm ready to come. I said, but you're a lawyer. Why would you come?
That's funny.
I said, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So
give me a job.
Give me a job. So he said, oh, okay, you want to work? So there is a list of clients that haven't ordered for a few months. So take it and start.
So you started in sales.
Yeah. I'm still in the sales part.
Yeah, you are. That's why you're
but
here.
my first experience was like phone calls,
Wow, that is interesting because that picture behind you there is my father in 1975, and I was not asking him for a job. I was reluctant to be there, and I complained all the time. But then one day in 1988, he came to me and said, "Hey, I've got an offer to buy somebody from South Africa wants to buy this company, and maybe you ought to take a look at doing that, buying it from me." So I worked for 3 months and sort of got the bug. And so how did you find sales coming from an academic viewpoint, since you were studying and you wanted to argue with people in general, right, as a career, and now you have to get on the phone and solicit sales? Was it fun?
It's tough.
It's very tough.
It's tough. It's still tough sometimes, but I like, sales you like or you don't like. If you like, you can support, and you can continue the effort.
Yes.
If you don't like, better to do something else.
Well, you have a cute personality, and I think that so much of sales is that. I've sold all my life. I mean, this is what I've done, and you have to be humble.
Very humble.
Yeah, you have to be able to accept the no's and persevere and know that you have the product that can help people.
Exactly. I think my parents understood that since a long time, and it's in our DNA. We work and we continue the effort because we have a certain idea or where we want our wines to be.
Yep.
So we put our efforts for that.
So he buys his winery and he doesn't have those ideas yet, right? He's just fell in love with the landscape and the romance of being a winemaker. What would you think if I asked your father the biggest surprise was getting into this industry?
I think he would give you not only one surprise, but maybe 100 surprises. So yeah, I think at the front.
Not so easy, is it?
At the beginning, they had many surprises, and one of the first, I think, was I'm not totally familiar with that because I was a very little baby at that time. But they had an issue with the local cooperative because the previous owner was in contract with the cooperative.
Oh, they were selling grapes to the cooperative.
Yeah. So they have to get out of that.
And there was a contract.
I think that was the first issue.
Well, I wonder how do you do that? I mean, because you're too young to know, but I mean, now you're an attorney. You can go back and look at those documents.
Yeah, it would be fun to see now. This matter is my eye today.
Yeah, right. So he has to get out of the cooperative meeting, and for the listeners, would mean that he had the previous owner had a contract to sell possibly exclusively, the grapes to the cooperative, and the cooperative's making brands from the grapes.
Yes.
So he gets out because he wants to create his own brand.
Yes, because there was no winery on the estate. He had to build a winery.
It was just a vineyard.
Yeah.
Wow, that's even more bold But he bought it knowing that there was some revenue stream from selling the grapes on a per ton basis or whatever it is to the co-op. But he's like, no, I want to create. Was there a name then? Was
Grangeneuve was the name of the area.
Yeah. I looked that up when we were talking. I know I've tasted wines from Grangeneuve.
Yeah, it's a common name.
Yeah, but it was the appellation was not even appellation.
No,
it was just
appellation.
Just the name.
In France, you call that a lieu-dit. It's really like the geographic area.
Yeah.
But Grange, it means it have a meaning in French. So,
right.
We are not the only one, Grangeneuve.
Right. Okay, maybe right.
So that's why we had to find a name.
Yeah. Interesting. So now there's a winery?
Yes. First vintage was 1990.
So he had to build a winery?
Yes.
And that's another lesson learned?
Yes.
So and decide on, for instance, whether we're going to use...
which vat,
Yes, you're going to use French oak, of course, but...
Yes, so many questions.
So many questions. And he knew nothing.
Nothing.
And so did you did you find a winemaker?
Yes. We have worked for 15 years with Michel Rolland. And,
really?
Yes.
Michel Rolland.
And we have changed in 2004 for Stéphane de Renoncourt.
Interesting.
So we have completely changed the style and we have, since 20 years, we have focused a lot on the terroir and on the, having, the good grapes, good, and we changed the style of the wine. Since,
how old was the vineyard when your dad bought it?
Actually, the winery, the chateau is here for almost 500 years. But there was only 19 hectares of vines when he bought. And after he bought another 9 hectares, and now we have 40 hectares. So quickly he bought
grown a lot.
Quickly he bought around because there were some opportunities, of course. But now, yes, we have 40 hectares.
Because you said Michel Rolland, he's a famed enologist, travels the world helping people. So I'm balancing 2 comments here. One is that you've planted these new grapes. They're 10 years. You hope in 10 years that you'll understand, and particularly with grapes that are not indigenous to the area, so to speak. And Michel Rolland was in Armenia, which is a burgeoning or growing wine market. Maybe that's going to be stalled through this war, but he told a winemaker there, yes, you can grow grapes here. It'll be about 100 years before we figure out, what this is going to do. And your estimate of 10 years is probably really accurate, if not even more than that, before you figure out what these new grapes are how they're going to express the terroir.
Yeah.
And how you're going to manage, climate change and all the rest of it. What's happened so far with climate change in Bordeaux? I know when we were there in 2018, we left Bordeaux, we went to Monaco, and right behind us was a storm, and it was May, and it hailed, and it took out this, 100-yard strip of vineyards, just stripped them clean. This bizarre hailstorm that just one row over and one row the other side, perfectly fine. But right down the middle of this hailstorm, no leaves, no grapes, no nothing. So what have you guys done?
Actually, we are quite lucky to have a lot of trees and forests around the chateau that we kept. It belonged to us, and we kept it. So I believe today it's quite of a natural protection for the vines, because je touche du bois, of course, but we don't have so much problem with the grêle or mildew. This year was quite strong because you had to be there to understand what happened. It was some rain and so hot after the rain, and the humidity was incredible. High. But it only lasts a few days. But when you are here, you understand. But yes, I think more and more people, replanting some trees and stuff is like the new trend to protect the vines, because because it was like that
Mm-hmm.
years and years ago. It was normal to grow something else with the vines, and then it disappeared, but now it's coming back. And I think it's a good way to, one hand, protect the vine, and to have another, to grow something else in case you don't have grapes.
Right, sure.
You know?
Well, there is an uprooting, and I think in France is one of the leading countries of, there's too many grapes, too many vineyards, too many hectares, and they're replanting. But you mentioned when we were talking off camera about this forest and these other trees, and we were trying to come up with a name that expresses this idea, which I used biodiversity is not necessarily the correct name, but how does that help what you're doing? Is it for pollination? Is it for protection?
Actually, there was the project started because we had to put off a vine because it's arriving to the end. So the idea is, what are we replanting on that land? And so I don't necessarily want it to because it was not the best terroir of the chateau. I didn't want to replant something like common, and I started to think, and I said to the team of de Relancourt, I said, okay, I would like to plant some trees, and I want to start a new project. So we start to brainstorm on what should we do, and they came back with a really interesting project, because this land can froze. It's like on the back of the vineyard, so it has a risk of froze. So we said, okay, maybe we can think of replanting, but a little bit up from the soil.
That's interesting.
Do a pergola style,
right.
To see if it had an impact on the froze or not.
Yes.
And then we started to, and at the end, the idea is that the trees will hold the vines, So there is a lot of ideas behind this parcel.
How about the cross-pollination and/or the value that these alternative trees or plants bring to the soil, the nutrients in the soil?
It's a good question. That's why we have planted very different kind of trees to have really a little biodiversity parcel, and that's the balance between the trees also. So we have planted fruit trees, but not only. We have, but for the kind of trees I won't be able in English to sell.
Yeah, right. I understand. Okay.
Sorry,
the Latin,
my English.
We don't need the Latin term either.
But the idea is to have something that is quite balanced to, and we'll see. Maybe we'll have some good surprise on some trees and bad surprise on others. But the idea is to have something that we will observe. We will observe nature. We will maybe produce some apple juice. And it's funny because recently I've heard that now in Bordeaux people plant more apple trees than vines.
Well, let's see. How far is Bordeaux from Normandy? A little ways, right?
I can say because my mother-in-law has a house in Normandy.
Oh. Exactly.
So it's 7 hours of.
So there's no climate or terroir balance between Normandy, which is the home of apple.
Yeah, but in the Loire Valley they do a lot of.
In Loire.
Yeah, and I heard some markets are asking more and more cider.
Yeah, cider's important.
Cider is coming quite strongly. So,
it's funny. There was so funny. It's something that we in our industry have to deal with all the time, and that is sort of these changing consumer habits. Cider's one of those things. Non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
I mean, which frankly, personally, being a guy in this industry all these years and sitting in front of a beer box there in that wine shop picture, I don't get the idea of just drink water or sparkling water with a lime in it. I mean, why do we have to create non-alcoholic drinks that look like they're alcoholic? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
and I
agree.
I've had very few non-alcoholic wines that have any palatability. I did have one Prosecco. He was in the show, actually. At least it wasn't bad, right? You could drink it.
So you can say it's bad.
But I don't get it. So how does and I think here's my romantic opinion of wine, in that all generations will come around eventually, because look at the things. What do we know? It's 9,000 years old or even more. They just found grape seeds and 100 jars of wine in one of the queens of Egypt's tomb recently. So it's been around a little while, and it's not going to go anywhere. It may have its blips and ups and downs, but eventually, my romantic view is that somebody eventually has a good glass of wine, properly made, that expresses what it's supposed to, and realizes that there's something to it. Forget about the package, the flavors, non-alcoholic, what all the different marketing trends that go on. But like I said, we have to sell wine. So have you looked into cans? Have you looked into Tetra Paks? Have you looked into alternative bottles? I mean, is this not even on the radar?
No, yeah, I have some friends in Bordeaux that are doing cans, but honestly, it's not my thing. I can create new cuvée, I have some ideas, but I think I will let to other people do, these kind of things, because I won't be able to do it properly. I like the good classics. I
agree.
I like the trying new things. Why not? With if you have a real idea of what you want to do, you can try, of course. But you have to always keep a good classic in the range, because it's your brand. And so no Tetra Pak and stuff. No, tomorrow maybe if I have a big market for that, if I have a demand, of course I will maybe think of respond to that demand, But as far as I am not, it's not my heart of.
That's interesting. I mean, I agree with you completely. And I've had corporate America distributors on this show, vice president of this division, absolutely and completely defend the idea of Tetra Paks, cans, and all that. Because why? Because that's what's on the shelf, and that's what people might be buying. I don't think they're huge markets, but they're trending markets, and people buy them, and that's all they care about, right? And so I have coming on the show a gentleman whose job at a major university in America is to find a coating that goes inside the can or the Tetra Pak that can last more than 24 months. And to me, that's just kind of disgusting in the first place. And the whole value to him is the carbon footprint, that it's a serious reduction in the carbon footprint between a glass bottle and this can. And I personally don't think that's a good reason to sacrifice what we have here. But
now the new trend is the carton bottle. Have you heard of that?
The carton bottle?
Yeah. It's really coming
I've seen the squished plastic ones. I've seen plastic bottles. I don't know what the carton bottle is.
Yes, it's the new thing coming, yeah.
Like you're talking like a milk carton bottle?
Yeah.
I've seen those. That's called Tetra Pak. But that's gross.
But it's the shape of a bottle, huh? Actually, it's not a Tetra Pak.
Oh, it's the shape of a bottle.
Yeah.
So
because the glass in all this discussion of ecology, the glass is the number one problem.
Yes, it's the glass.
Yeah, it's the glass. It's not even the transportation.
But
the glass.
Well, so here's going back to my comment about marketing, right? They have a statistic out there that 90% of all wine is drunk within 2 hours or 24 hours or 48 hours of the day it's purchased. And so why do we bother with glass that, has a carbon footprint issue and when it's going to be drunk anyway? So maybe there is a division between a wine that's meant to be drunk within 48 hours of being purchased and something like your white, which is already a 2018, which already would have surpassed the value of a carton's food grade coating.
Yeah.
And like I have a bottle of plastic South African Merlot I got years ago from somebody, and the coating has separated and it's collapsing and it's disgusting inside, and I'm keeping it for this reason because it clearly is not meant to age.
Yeah.
But doesn't that detract from the romance of the bottle?
I think you will we will have to adapt somehow, but it's coming step by step. You don't have to follow a trend, or of course you have to you can't just think maybe we will find an alternative or recyclable glass or but of course we will have to adapt. But personally, I'm not ready for that because I have other issues to solve before.
Yes.
So
make good wine. How about that?
Make good wine and do things, do nice things, and it will be maybe the next step in my but not yet.
In general, the for the listeners, the problem with wine glass is it's colored, and so that the recyclability of a colored, tinted glass is not very good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of white, clear bottles that you can buy. But now they're also working on thinner, lighter ones. Like being in the wine shipping business all my life, or most of it. Oh my God, maybe half of it. When somebody would come in here and say, "Hey, look at this beautiful bottle. It's tapered and it's got a high punt and this high shoulders," and I would say, you know what that means to me? Higher shipping costs, right? It's 5 pounds instead of 3 pounds.
Yeah, but I think the first thing that winery can do is stopping like the very heavy bottle.
Yeah, I think that's
it should be not allowed. It's maybe just start with normal bottle, and that would be a good first step, I think.
Then we were in Portugal 2 weeks ago, and we went in the caves, and here are these unbelievable bottles of 1842 port. And anything less than what it's in today probably wouldn't have survived. But anyway, what is Valentine's end game in all this? What do you want? Do you want to hand this to your children as the next generation, as the steward of the vineyard? Do you want to be the next marketing genius in the world of wine and make a name for yourself because you created something new or a brand that's new? What's your?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to really to set up the brand. No matter if it's me or not me. I don't want to be necessarily light, like the light on me.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's very important to working with the good people, create some link with the right people also, and to the relation you create with people is the most important for me. Sharing some moments, it has to be the center of my work because I like to enjoy moments and share. And so as long as I can find a good distributor to that will defend the color of my brand, it's for me the most important. And if I can't, if my kids wants to work in that industry, that would be fun because I had some good memories also with my parents traveling all over the world to sell the wines. And for me, it's one of my maybe the reason I decided to do that. So I don't want to be the next marketing genius, I think, but I would like to to install the brand properly.
I had this thought, and I had on the last trip to Europe I was just talking about. We were in Italy, we were in Portugal, we were in Paris. In Italy, we visited 2 wineries, 2 women that were on the show, and I took 2 other couples with us. We had an incredible lunch and bonding period. Then when we went to Portugal, I did the same thing. Had 3 meetings, 1 podcast. And then when we were in Paris, I told you off camera that we had toasted a mutual friend at Willie's Wine Bar, and then had dinner, Jews. And I told my wife after all this, I said, I don't know of any other product, and you're an attorney, you would travel the world possibly doing law work, but that bond isn't going to be created. But something about wine, there's some passion there. I have yet to define it, but you can travel the world, meet amazing people, have amazing food, and have a long-lasting relationship because of those 3 things.
Exactly. That's my point of view also.
And that's what it is.
Yes. It's a secret thing about wine, and people who work in that industry, I think they know that. That's you create something magical. So
what is it? That's what I can't define. What is this magic?
It's all about sharing moments.
Yes, but why does wine do that? Why doesn't beer do that? Why doesn't Scotch do that? Why doesn't why doesn't being an attorney do that, or a doctor, but something about what's in this bottle that's properly made that makes you have these relationships. I'm not asking you to define it. I'm just saying there's something about it.
There is something about it.
That,
and when people come to our place, I can tell you they remember all their life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're doing the right thing. And we're almost at 50 minutes, so we're going to wrap this up. But I think the right thing is, and you mentioned it earlier, is that you have a story now. And wine is about the story. And in fact, I have this TV show I want to produce. I've been pitching it, which is telling these stories, not in, hi, I'm Paul K. and I'm here in Bordeaux and I'm going to have a conversation with Valentine. No, it's going to be like Anthony Bourdain's show where he's in the bowels of what's happening with your winery or the people that make the wine or the harvest, your pickers. You're going to peel those stories back. But it is about the story, and it is about, well, you're going to Kansas. And you may meet with a distributor. Are you going to meet with distributors or clients? Or
Yes.
Are you going to meet with buyers?
I'm going to meet with, I'm going to do buyers, wine shops, and tasting also. So I will probably meet the consumer also.
So that wine shop owner is going to meet Valentine. And he or she is going to say, when the next client comes in, I need you to taste this Grand Genève. Because let me tell you this story. How nice you are, how humble you are, how your dad had nothing to do with the wine business, got into it. And they're going to go, oh, yeah, that's a pretty cool story. I want to taste what this means, right? We get to taste what it means. It's been such a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
And I hope we can do it again.
Thank you very much for receiving me.
I hope when we come to Bordeaux.
I hope you're going to be able to visit us on your next trip to France.
Well, I'm glad you said that because
You're coming next month.
We're coming
next week.
We're coming in May.
We have a guest house.
Yeah,
we do pretty cool things on summertime. We do also picnics.
Oh, that's fun.
In the vine, we source some local product from the area. We have a super open market in Sainte-Foy all Saturday morning, and we have incredible producers in this market.
Oh, that's fun.
All year.
Starts when?
All year Saturday morning.
Also, so we're coming to the Monaco Grand Prix in May.
May is a good season to come.
Yeah, it is good. We're going to come probably to Paris. My friends want to go to Normandy and stay at Brittany for a day or two. And then we're going to head down to Bordeaux. And I have, 2 or 3 couples with me. I haven't decided. Only last night we decided this. So you may hear from me, but regardless, we'll be back in Bordeaux at some time or another. This is one of my favorite places of wine production. And
Bordeaux
we'll
is really great.
I have another visit at Chateau Canin-Cherniac, Monsieur Romique Arconian, somewhere around there. Anyway, thank you so much for coming in. Safe travels and success out there, and look forward to seeing you on property.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to Wine Talks with Paul Kalamkarian. Don't forget to subscribe because there's more great interviews on their way. Folks, have a great time out there in the wine world. Cheers.